Welcome back to Clean Radio. I want to thank everybody out there at this point for being our followers on Facebook, followers on Twitter, and we have an awesome show tonight. It's a show really about that's really near and dear to my heart for so many reasons. But there are so many people that are out there that are struggling with some sort of addiction, and with food, with alcohol. And tonight, we're a show we want to talk about the excitement and the hope. But there's so many people I know that are sober that struggle with eating disorders after they get sober. And like Gabby, who called up, was 7 years sober, and she's facing this thing of and I want to tell people out there, if you're going through this stuff, don't be embarrassed about this stuff.
And also, even if you don't have a drug or alcohol problem, the fact that if you have an eating disorder problem, it's okay to talk about this right now. It's like having a conversation about it is the first step.
And I think what makes it harder, and we're in the studio tonight with Rachel Levi, who's the director of the Shoreline Center for Eating Disorder Treatment. And I think it's so important because everybody has, we're not a political show, but when Michelle Obama reminds me of what she's doing with the food is Nancy Reagan in the 80s to just say no to drugs. She's sort of done this same thing with food. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great that people want to do this, that people want to help. But unless you're really understanding why people are eating like they are, then you're not really...
Right.
Am I wrong on
this?
Right,
and the backlash that can come from sort of mindless efforts at really curbing an obesity problem, which is real. It also has some other impact on self-esteem and kind of contributing again to the idea that there's a perfect image and there's a perfect body that we all should be aspiring to look like one thing. I think that is going in the wrong direction.
I mean, you're comparing the outsides instead of dealing with the insides.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, I know what it takes, but what does it take to go into treatment for eating disorder or to come to acceptance that you have an eating disorder? What does that all entail for someone?
Well, I imagine it's similar. I mean, you look at motivation and readiness for change. I always talk to our clients about being willing to be uncomfortable because you can do all of the wanting and say, I'm ready. But unless you're willing to be uncomfortable and sit in your own skin right in those moments when you want to do other things, that's the challenge.
I'm kind of smirking because I'm like, God, you're telling my story. I get it.
I want to tell you something funny. Last night I was out, and a friend of mine was asking my girlfriend, how long does it take him to get ready in the morning? Because I used to speak a lot at 12-step meetings, and I would say it took me about 3 to 4 hours because I had, dysmorphia issues, and I would change shirts, I would change the hair, and it took me. And she's like, oh, it takes a couple hours, and so I've taken 2 hours off. And it's amazing. And we were joking about it, and it was amazing progress. But because it took me a long time into sobriety to be comfortable, talking about this stuff and laughing at it. I would laugh. It takes me a while to get ready, and that's just what I like. Mm-hmm. And I've owned it. And I think that's something that's very important with stuff, is to own it, is to be okay.
Right.
Everyone's always looking for that quick fix. I know somebody, I was talking to someone, they're like, how do I lose a lot? I need 15 pounds in 3 weeks. I was starting 3 months ago and now, it's 3 weeks away. And how do I do it? And I'm like, I can tell you exactly how to do it, the good and the bad way without doing drugs. But I could tell you, but it's like, why are we doing that? Is it the pressure that we're putting on ourselves?
That's
And I do that all the time. I can't believe it didn't take me more. It took me 20 minutes to get ready today, but it took a long time for me to only get ready in 20 minutes,
Right. Yeah. And,
I get what you're saying, Judah.
The denial is there. And then there's a lot of ambivalence. I'm not sure if I want to let go of this thing that actually is serving a purpose for me, whether it's, like I said, reducing some anxiety, building my sort of pseudo self-confidence. It's ruining other aspects of my life. I can't socialize. I isolate. I can't eat out like with the rest of my friends. However, I feel better about myself, and that's a hard thing to give up for a lot of people.
It is, and also when I got heavy, when I used to be a supermodel, I would look in the mirror and I'd see an elephant. I saw the elephant man. I kid you not. Right. When I got heavy. And I came into this acceptance that I finally saw myself in the mirror and I was 267 pounds. I just cried, and then I looked at myself naked in the mirror and I said, thank you for the weight. But it took me, I mean, up until today, I'm not in a relationship. It took I couldn't have another, it's so hard to be like, I'm okay and I'm ready for a relationship and being in that intimate relationship with somebody. Like, I think that we all go through that.
I think it's learning to be okay with who you are. And we don't actually talk about any numbers with our clients because they're already fixated on numbers, whether it's weight gain or weight loss or calories in or calories out. We want folks to start looking at who they are and developing a sense of self that's outside of their external appearance.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. That's Clean with a K. The number is 888-539-2980. We actually have calls lining up. Let's go to Buddy. Welcome to Clean Radio, Buddy.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi,
Good.
buddy.
How are you, buddy?
Hey. Wow, this is a dynamite subject. This is a subject that I've been dealing with pretty heavy lately. When I have a little over 4 years clean, and in the first year and a half that I got clean, I gained well over 100 pounds. So I went from, about 160 all the way up to, at my heaviest, 310 pounds.
Wow.
I was pre-diabetic, my ankle, all the health problems, high blood pressure. I just could not stop eating. And, and like my addict self, I sought outside solutions. I went and I got the lap band. I had bariatric surgery. And, it definitely changed my life up to a point. I mean, I lost about 80 of those pounds, and now I'm kind of down, and I just keep yo-yoing back and forth. Gain 10, lose 10. Gain 10, lose 10, and it's just, I found all the foods that are bad for me, but that I can get past the lap band, so, I'm cheating.
Buddy, did you feel your alcoholism or drug addiction kind of kick in even higher? Because I'm told with the lap band and gastro bypass, a lot of people turn into alcoholics or drug addicts, even though you're clean.
He was first.
I know. I'm saying, even though you're clean, do you feel that ism kick in higher?
Oh, my God, yeah. I use food now as a total coping mechanism.
Right, and that's sort of what I was talking about.
Right.
It's the first thing I go to when I'm stressed at work or whatever. Like I go to, and then I know all the snacks and everything at work that I can get past the lap bands. What's the high risk ones, and the ones that I can definitely do. It's totally insane. I totally use food like I used to use drugs.
Rachel, what does Buddy do?
Well, I would say get some help and start looking at the stressors and start looking at the coping ways that he copes, because the things that are still there that he used the alcohol
isms.
for. Right. Those are still there. And so without looking at the underlying issues and getting some support and help there, it will just bump around. We call it whack-a-mole, and it'll go from one thing
Whack-a-mole?
to that's what we
That
call it in
game,
treatment.
right, where
Yeah, it's like the game of whack-a-mole.
Right.
When you hit on the alcohol, the bulimia comes
Right.
up. And
Or in the 12 steps, it's like switching seats in the Titanic. No matter where you're sitting, you're dead. But so what about 12-step groups? Buddy, are you an advocate? Obviously, we're not talking about the 12-step with drug addiction and alcoholism. We're talking about for food. Are there any places that are free, or is this just so new?
Well, I went to an OA meeting once with my sponsor, actually.
Right.
And that was very cool, and I could tell immediately I could relate to everybody in the room, and it was really all the same underlying issues, it seemed like. The commonalities that I have with fellow addicts.
Right, right. So the drugs are gone. So the stuff that's going to kill you instantly is gone. And I think that's the problem. People, I smoke, and I always say to people, well, it's a 70-year death. And that's a cop-out, too, and I know that. And the problem with food is, obviously, it's legal, and you could also, there is not the finale right away, but there is, obviously, with diabetes, there is...
well, there is with bulimia. I mean,
Right.
that the risk of cardiac arrest is huge.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was heavy, my doctor at the time, Dr. Harsey, looked at me and he said, you know what, you need to lose weight. You're going to die sober, and you're going to die of a heart attack or something from being so heavy. And I was like, oh.
Right.
What? Like, it was such a realization. But again, it's like, you talk about help, Rachel, and What's the first thing someone does? It's like, okay, so someone's listening and they're like, okay, but that just sounds like help. Like, what do I do? Like, what is help?
Well,
What does
you know,
help
I'm a
look like?
therapist, so I would say call a therapist because
Right.
that's what I do.
But what if
And-
I don't have the money? I mean, using me as the example. Like,
Well, there are
Google?
community resources.
Right.
There's Psychology Today. There's all sorts of resources. ED referral. You can call Shoreline. I can try to hook you up again
Yeah.
with.
Buddy, do you have insurance?
I do, in fact, yes.
Okay, so you know what? I'm going to tell you this right now, buddy. Give Rachel a call tomorrow, and I don't often say I trust people, but there's something about this woman that I trust. I mean, how many
Sheena
hours?
doesn't trust hardly
Yeah,
anyone.
I don't
And the
trust
fact that
many
he's saying
people,
this is
especially
amazing.
in the community in the 12. You know, I think people a lot of times. I'll be the first to say this: try to take advantage of people, and you don't seem like the person that's taking advantage of somebody. You seem like you actually want to help people, buddy. You're gonna give Shoreline a call tomorrow.
I'm going to do it, man.
And
Yeah.
because how many hours a day are you spending plotting food?
Yeah. It's interesting that you should ask that because that's when I do an intake with folks. I'm like, I'm not so bad. I'm
Right.
not overweight. I'm not underweight, and I always stop and say, you know what? I'm not even interested in that. I want to know how many hours in a day are you preoccupied with? What should I eat? How much did I eat? I've got to go run. I looked so fat. These pants don't fit. You know, and on and on and on. And most of the folks say they're preoccupied with eating disorder or body image thoughts 80+% of their day.
You know,
And
it's,
that's not okay.
it's funny because I got to a place just recently, like about a couple months ago. I bought a size 1 pair of jeans, and yeah, they're stretched, but like they're 1. And I was like, but I just look so fat. And I went, wait a minute, this is amazing. Like even when I got to a size 10 and I was pushing an 18, I was like, wait, I got to learn to appreciate those moments.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, they
that's
don't
where the
stick
inside
forever.
matters. And quite honestly, the numbers and all that
Right.
it's
I think one of the things, you know, buddy, is when you get sober, you're dealing with so many things, and you know your insides still haven't, you know, that thing you're not dealing with, those insecurities, those fears, all of those things, and buddy, your honesty is amazing, you know, and I beg of you to, you know, it's just such a waste of time to have so many hours consumed with food.
Yeah, you sound like you're
Yeah.
a cutie, especially with that personality of yours.
and as a guy to be able to come on and talk about food issues when it's something that's so generalized as being a women's issue.
And,
you see
what's the
more
number, by the
men
way, just so I
talking
know,
about
what's the number for Shoreline? Because I'm getting actually tweets saying, what's
562
562
434
434
6007.
6007. So, buddy, you wrote that down? 562. We're going to put that up on our website. 562 434 6007. And,
Cool. Yeah, I got it. Excellent.
okay, buddy, thank you so much for the call.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. That's Clean with a K. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. I feel like, you know, when they have those, NBC used to do it all the time. They used to go, a very special episode of ER. And I feel like we're having, like, tonight, a very special episode of Clean Radio. And it is a special episode because Jennifer Easy on the Eyes Jimenez is in the studio with us tonight. And she's got one of the most awesome stories there are out there. But we also have this amazing woman out there that's really trying to make a change. I feel
A difference.
a
A huge
difference, a huge
difference.
difference. I almost feel like we have the Jamie Oliver of the West Coast in the studio tomorrow. This woman that's trying to combat
Today, right
today,
Tonight.
combat today, tonight. I'm on my rant. Don't interrupt me. And just sounded like a 90-year-old Jew in the Catskill Mountains. And we have this amazing woman. You really are. You're doing. This topic, like I said, is so near and dear to my heart, and it's not my place to say why in some ways. And
It's amazing you have a heart.
yes, I know. It's under my Clean Radio T-shirt. So tell us about how does recovery look for Rachel Levy, founder, director of the Shoreline Center of Eating Disorder. What does recovery look like?
Again, kind of acknowledging there's a problem.
Right.
And then coming to the place that you're willing to give it up. And like I said earlier, and be uncomfortable with what that feels like and learning new coping mechanisms that aren't going to make the problem worse.
And the quick fixes just don't work. I mean, it's funny. That's why, again, I smirk is like having to sit through the uncomfortability is such a drag and it feels like it's never going to end. And it does.